So you kind of get this like down and up back into it.
Wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you.
Getting vocals to sit right in the mix is one thing, but getting them to actually jump out of the speakers, hold attention, and connect with your listener emotionally is an art. And most of the time, that difference comes down to how you use vocal effects. It's not just a case of slapping a bit of reverb and delay on here and there. It's about using these things intentionally in order to add depth and movement to your vocal and bring emotion to the mix. So today, I'm going to take you inside one of my favorite mixes that I've done. This track actually ended up on a Netflix show, and I'm going to break down how the vocal effects were absolutely crucial to making the vocal feel alive and emotionally engaging. The key thing to understand today is this: none of this is about specific plugins. This is about a key set of repeatable steps that I use time and time again. And once you have these things in place, everything becomes much faster and much more consistent. So the track we're working with today is a song called Small Doses by Camille Kano, and this song got picked up for the Netflix show Ginny and Georgia. Now, I don't know anything about this show, but my girlfriend says it's a good show, so do with that information what you wish. So I'll play you a bit of the track without any vocal effects going on. The main vocal chain is in place, so there is some processing happening, but it's all very simple. We're not going to get into that today. We're just going to be focused on the vocal effects. So let me play you a bit of the dry vocal with no reverb or delay or anything like that, and we'll build it up as we go.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
You can hear it's very quiet sounding. It's quite intimate, but it's very dry at the moment. And as always, the first place to start with anything in a mix is by making a plan for how to approach it. So Camille's pre-mix notes to me were, she says, "Hey guy, reaching out to you once again as I have an upcoming single that needs mixing. I trust your vision." It's definitely got some Lorde and Lana Del Rey indie pop influences. So straight away I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't need to be super bright, polished pop. If Lorde and Lana Del Rey are the influences, then it's going to be way more about the character of the vocal performance and about making sure that the lyric is audible. It's going to be focused on the vibe much more than delivering something which is like hyper polished pop. She says, "I'm envisioning echoing darker vocals and creative effects that fit within the genre, stacked harmonies with dreamy reverb, that sort of thing." And then she goes on to say a big reference is 400 Lux by Lorde. She's not looking for anything super specific, but something that fits alongside past tracks that I've mixed for her. So that's really useful. That helps me immediately get a vision for what she's got in mind. And that also really aligns with how I hear the track. So all the information that I need for how to approach this mix is already in her notes and in the song itself. And it's up to me as a mix engineer to pull that out and translate that to the listener. So in terms of the setup, I'm not going to go deep into what the vocal chain itself is doing because it's not about that today. If you want to check out how I build a vocal chain that works every time, I posted a video on this a few weeks ago, which you can check that out after this video. But just a quick rundown in terms of what the setup's doing. I've got this main vocal track, which is routed to this vocal bus here. And this track has a bit of Isotope RX on it, just doing some denoising on the voice because it was recorded on an SM7 and it was pretty noisy. So that's just cleaning up a bit of that noise. Then there's a high pass EQ, just getting rid of some low end rumble. And then there's a bit of RVox, and that's literally it. There's no EQ on this vocal. There's basically no compression. I didn't feel like it needed it. I felt like the vocal already sounded good just with this, so that's all we're doing. From here we have this Bright Vox bus, which is just a bus that's used to brighten this up. I talk about this in the video I mentioned, and that's just got a bit of EQ going on to brighten it up, a little bit more air EQ, and then just a de-esser. And that's just blended in a tiny amount to give the vocal a bit more shine and brightness and help it cut above the mix a little bit more. And then there's some parallel compression using the C1 from Waves. But it's a super simple setup. And then that main track plus these two buses are routed to this main vocal bus, which has, again, a little bit more compression on it just to glue that main vocal track plus those buses together, and a bit more de-essing. Then just a gain plugin, which is not doing anything. So basically this main vocal bus here is the sum of the main audio track plus the Bright Vox bus and the parallel compression bus. That's all being routed to this main bus. And then from here, we'll send all of this to the vocal effects to make sure that also the parallel compression and the bright vocal is being sent to the reverb and delay as well. So on this main bus, you'll see that we have these 4 sends here. And these 4 sends are pretty much the foundation of every single mix that I do. And they kind of lay the groundwork for getting the vocal 80% of the way there. And then once we've got that 80% locked in, that extra 20% is just about adding stuff to make the track unique unique and to give it some spice and some interest, but we're going to get into all of that. So the very first thing that I like to do is add a bit more width and a bit more dimension to the vocal, and this helps to give the whole mix some more depth. So we're going to go to this first send here, which says bus 5. This is being sent to bus 5, and this bus is called width. And what we're going to do is pull up a really simple sample delay. I actually saved pretty much all of these presets in my Ultimate Pop Vocals pack, just because it makes the whole thing so much easier than having to set it up every time. So you see I have this one here called Lead Widener, and what this is just an instance of the sample delay with a bit of delay on the left and a bit of delay on the right, and then an EQ, but it's processing only the sides, and that's just boosting a bit of top end from around about 3K upwards, and that just gives the sides a bit more presence and helps the vocal feel like it's got a bit more energy in the wide areas. So let's dial a bit of this in and see what difference this is making.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
You don't need loads of that. Like if you want it to sound chorusy and have this big width to it, then you can push that quite hard, and that's going to give you that sort of almost chorusy wide vocal sound. But I think in this case you just need a little bit, and sometimes you can get away with even less than that. It's just about giving the feeling that the vocal has gotten a little bit bigger and is a bit more present and is occupying more space in the mix. But I think somewhere around there sounds good. It feels like the vocal is a bit stronger and it's a bit wider and it's just taking up a bit more space, and that helps with that feeling of intimacy and bringing her vocal forward above the track and just making it sound bigger. So the next thing that I like to do is to put the vocal in a space and give it a bit more realism, because at the moment, particularly where this vocal was recorded on an SM7, which rejects a lot of natural room noise, it doesn't really have any cue in the vocal recording as to what kind of space she's in. So it sounds very dry and it sounds a little bit lifeless, but just by adding a small amount of room reverb, we can make the vocal feel more natural, and that helps again with that feeling of maybe a bit of loneliness and a bit of sort of introspective thinking. So what I'm going to do is go to this bus 6 down here, and this is called Room. And again, I'm just going to pull up one of these presets because I've got this saved so that I don't have to dial it in every time. And I'm just going to go to the very subtle Room preset. And all this is just some channel EQ, carving out the low end and this low mid resonance, and then sent to a very short reverb, which is the little Room preset in Space Designer, which I think I've just tweaked a little bit. And as I said at the top of this video, none of this is about these plugins or about these presets. I just built these presets over time to save me having to dial it in from scratch every time. But you can use anything you like. I often use Waves True Verb. That's a really great sounding reverb for like a room reverb, or Valhalla Room, anything like that. Anything that's giving you short room reverb you can use here. But as I say, I've got this preset which I've modified a bit, and this just works for me every time. So let's dial a bit of this in and see what this is doing.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
So again, we don't need loads of it. It's just enough to create some sense of realness and a sense of space around the vocal that helps me connect to her as the listener. And my interpretation of this song, at least, is that it's either an internal monologue where she's talking to herself, or it's a very intimate conversation between two people that we're being allowed to listen in on. So creating this room around the vocal and giving it a bit of space helps to tell that story a bit more, and I think helps to make it feel a little bit more personal. So now the vocal's got a bit more life and it has this realism to it. The next thing is to sort of color in the space behind the vocal and bring some of that dark, echoey sound that Camille was talking about in her pre-mixed notes to me. And typically for this kind of thing, I like either a hall reverb or a darker plate reverb, something that is a bit gritty, It's quite big and quite dense, but also something where we can roll the top end off and just push it behind the vocal so that the vocal doesn't get swamped. And for me, more often than not, the plugin of my choice is Valhalla Vintage Verb, just because it works every time. But I'm not being paid by Valhalla or anything like that. This is just a great plugin. But as I said, you can use any plugin, whether you use a stock plugin or whatever. It really doesn't matter. Anything that's going to give you a kind of dark, dirty sounding reverb. So I'm going to go to the Dirty Plate preset here, and let's just dial this in and see what sounds good.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you. I'll take you in small doses, I've been running for miles. I'll drink up all the moments if you stay for a while. We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
So the main thing here with this reverb is to make sure that we're filling in the space that's in the back of the mix. I don't want this reverb to get in the way of the vocal, and I don't want it to start to play with that sense of space really. I want it to fill the gap and just to give this dark, echoey element that goes on in the back of the mix, which gives the mix more depth. It's not necessarily about pushing the vocal back into a space. We want to keep the vocal up front and clear, but we want to give this depth to the back of the mix and really play with that sense of like darkness and eeriness going on. So we do that by having a longer pre-delay like this, where it's 56 milliseconds. So there's quite a bit of time between the vocal beginning and then the reverb actually starting. Then we're rolling off a bunch of top end, cleaning up some low end mud as well. And then also using another EQ just to take away some shininess that still seemed to be coming through a little bit. And again, using quite a long decay time here as well, 7 seconds. But for me, that feels natural. It feels like that helps with that sort of echoing sense that's going on in the back of the track. And I really like how that sounds. So the next thing that I want to do is enhance that echoey dark feeling in the back of the track even more. And just give it the sense that there's something moving and rattling around in the back of the mix. And I think that's going to help enhance the emotion and that sort of lonely feeling of the vocal even more. So what I'm going to do is going to go down to this send here where it's going to bus 8. And you'll see that this is currently labeled 8th note delay. So I'm going to pull up another one of my presets because this is already just dialed in and this is going to give us what I want pretty much straight away. I'm going to use this delay in the back preset. And what this is just an instance of the de-esser to take out any essiness, then a tape delay, which is currently set to quarter notes. So we're going to set this to 8th note delay so that it's got a bit more tempo to it. And it's like less of an echo and more of just a sort of moving delay. And then we have an instance of silver verb, which is kind of 50% wet, 50% dry, there or thereabouts. And this is just helping to smear that vocal delay and push it back in the mix a bit more. Because if we just have a dry delay, it's going to sound really upfront and it's going to be fighting the vocal for space. And then we have an instance of the chorus plugin just to smear it a little bit more and give it some modulation and sort of not allow us to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from, which is a crucial part of this. But what I'm going to do is just bypass these two plugins to begin with, so you just hear the delay on its own, and then I'll bring in that silver verb and that chorus so you can see what a difference that's making. Again, the plugins are irrelevant. It doesn't really matter what you use. This preset is irrelevant. It's just something that I've got because it's quick and easy and I know that it works. Any kind of delay, any reverb plugin, any chorus plugin, the principle of this chain really is what matters. So let's take a listen to what this is doing.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder take you in small doses. I've been. We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
Yeah, great. That just helps add a bit of movement in the back of the track, particularly where that kick drum is pulsing. Having that 8th note delay is helping lock in with that as well. Gives the whole track a bit more movement, and it also helps to enhance that sense that something is happening in the back of the track. I really like how that sounds. So that's pretty much the core of the vocal effects as a basic kind of setup. And as I say, I use these on every single mix because this width is allowing us to have a bit more dimension and a bit more depth to the vocal. And then we have the room reverb, which is giving it some natural space. Then we're using this longer, darker reverb to color in the space behind the vocal. But if you're not working on a track which is as dark and as ambient as this, then you just change out what the reverb's doing. Maybe you go for a shorter, brighter reverb, or you go for something which is thicker and a bit more dense. But the point is this setup is repeatable, and these principles can be modified really easily to suit the track that you're working on. And then again with the delay, like in this case, I've gone for this really bleary, smeared vocal delay, which is right back in the mix and just echoing around the back of the mix. But if I wanted the track to have more energy and I wanted that vocal to be more present, then I would probably just dial back some of this silver reverb and give that vocal delay a bit more upfront presence so that it gives more energy to the vocal. And then I could just dial in the amount of this chorus plugin to taste to decide how much I wanted to smear the width of that delay. Maybe I wouldn't even use it at all. But the point is it's all there, it's all ready, it's all set up, and I can tweak it so easily to fit the style of the track. But I don't want to just leave this there. I feel like we can enhance this even further and really play on these gaps here, maybe using some kind of delay throw to fill in these gaps and enhance that echoey, dark emotion even further. So I want to leave this first vocal phrase as it is because I don't feel like it needs a delay throw here.
The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up.
That phrase, I want it to echo out into space, and probably the same for this phrase and the one at the end of the verse too.
Every lie I tell you.
You can hear that reverb tail hangs over, but I feel like we can make that bloom even more and become something really ethereal and echoey. Now, at the time when I first mixed this track, setting this thing up used to take me ages because I'd have to like clip out a phrase and then I'd try and find the right delay plugin, edit it and get it all like dialed into where I needed it to be, and then I didn't really know which plugins to use. Sometimes it would sound good, sometimes it wouldn't, and it just became a real pain in the ass to get it set up properly. So what I've actually done is created kind of a tool for doing this in Logic. And again, if you're not using Logic or you don't have these tools, it's absolutely fine. You can do this manually, you can do this using any delay and reverb plugins, as I've said throughout this whole video. But what I have created now, for Logic at least, is this Voxbender vocal rack, which is designed to do sort of like auto chopping and auto reverb washes and all kinds of stuff for these moments in the track where you just need to add a little bit more spice and a little bit more interest, and it just saves me from having to set it up every time. So I'm just going to solo this up and take a listen to this phrase on its own. And what I want is just for that last up word to echo out into space. So we can do this by enabling the repeat, and then I'm going to set the repeat shift to 0%. And what that means is it's going to repeat exactly as it plays through. You'll see there'll be a bit of a delay between what you actually see on the screen and when you hear it. That's just the nature of the way this whole setup works. But essentially what we're trying to do is make that last up do a kind of stuttered repeat, and then we're going to send that into space with a reverb. Let's shorten that. So we're going to have 4 beats, and that's going to give us more of like an 8th note kind of thing. Shift it over a bit. Cool. And then we can use this wash to increase the amount of reverb. And then I'm just going to bounce that in place, and I'm going to include the audio tail in the region, and then that should give us this long decayed reverb sound. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Cool. And then we can just shift this over so it's kind of in line with that actual original vocal, and then let's fade that out too and bring that down in the mix and see what that sounds like.
You keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see.
And let's send that through another reverb. Let's try Valhalla Shimmer in this case.
You keep locked up. I wonder how you.
Maybe a bit of EQ just to push it further back. Let's put the EQ before the reverb.
You keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see.
And let's hear that in the mix.
Single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through. Single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you.
Cool, and then I want to do the same with this phrase here. So let's take that down onto that Vox Bender track again and see what we can come up with this. And the reason that I made this is just because it makes it so easy to come up with new creative ways to create delay throws rather than just using a delay plugin and having to automate it all the time. This is a much easier, much more hands-on way of creating these kind of things. That's quite cool. What if we set the repeat rate to 2 beats rather than, or to 8 beats rather than 4, and move the repeat shift again? I think it's kind of cool where it was before. We can change the pitch of this as well, bring the formant down. But I don't want it to become like an EDM track, so we're just going to leave the pitch where it is. Then let's bounce that in place to the selected track, include the audio tail again. And I really like working with audio regions for this kind of thing because it allows you to manipulate stuff much more than if it was on like a reverb send or whatever. And you can also like clip gain things down. It just makes it much easier working with actual audio, and it's much easier to manipulate what's going on.
Every lie I tell you, and I think the real tragedy is how long it. Every lie I tell you, and I think. Wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you, and I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you.
And I think then I want the same thing again, but just on the find word, so that find will echo out. But let's bring that down to that Vox Bender track again and see what it's going to do. It's pretty much bang on. If I move the repeat shift over a bit, that might just take some of the transient out of that. That's really got that Lord sound, but I think it's maybe like a little bit too hard on that cut. That sounds weird. Let's go back to where it was. Cool. And then we'll bounce that in place. And the same again, just drag that over and we'll just bring that down a bit, visually align it. And then let's take a listen to what that's doing.
Is how long it took me to find you. I'll take you in small doses. I've been running.
Having it as audio also means you can do things like reverse it. So if you wanted it to reverse up into the chorus, we could even like, actually what might be cool is to duplicate that again, bring that down and then reverse that up into the chorus. So you kind of get this like down and up back into it. I mean, that's probably going to be too long.
I'll take you in small doses. I've been running for miles.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary to do that reverse up, but if you wanted to, you could. It's really easy to do. With that, I might even fade it off a bit sooner.
It took me to find take you in small doses. I've been running. It took me to find you. I'll take you in small doses. I've been running for miles. I'll drink up.
Cool, and it's as easy as that to just create these little moments of ear candy and delay throws that are just helping to accentuate phrases, and this helps with the emotion of the song, helps with the feeling, and it also helps just to keep the attention of the listener, and it helps keep them fixed on the track because there's always little things happening and you can pan these things around, you can move them around, all kinds of stuff. This is that extra 20% that I was talking about. So we have the main vocal effects setup, which is these four. So we have the width, then we have the room, the spaciness, which gives it some life. Then we have the longer reverb, which colors in all the space behind the vocal. And then we have this delay, which helps just to give a bit more movement and a bit more kind of depth to the whole track. And that's 80% of everything that's there. And then we're just using these delay throws to add in that extra 20% and give the track some movement and give it a bit of extra life and interest and keep the listener engaged throughout the track. So let's start with the dry vocal again. We'll take a listen to that and I'll bring these sends in one by one along with these delay throws, and you can see what a difference we've made.
We bought a $20 bottle of rosé, but now I don't even need a buzz. The moon's illuminating every single word that I've been trying to keep locked up. I wonder how you seem to see through every lie I tell you. And I think the real tragedy is how long it took me to find you. I'll take you.
Yeah, great. You can hear what a difference those vocal effects have made to bring more depth, more dimension, more interest to the whole mix. And it's also simple, and it's just a setup that, as I said, I use it time and time again. And that's why I've got all of these presets set up and all of this different kind of stuff, is because this is just such a repeatable process that I will use on so many different mixes. And just knowing in advance like what vocal effects I'm going to be working with allows me to speed the whole process up, and I don't end up in this situation where I'm like, oh, what delay shall I use? Should I use H delay, or should I use Echo Boy, or should I use repeater? Like, what am I using? What reverb should I get? I just have these presets set up, or I just have a defined set of things that I'm doing on every mix, and it just speeds the whole process up. And if I need to change anything out, swap it for a different reverb because this is what suits this track, or change what the delay is doing because it suits this track, I can do that. But it's so much easier if you've got starting points and reference points that you're using on every single mix. So I encourage you to steal this setup, use it on your mixes, copy what I'm doing here, and see what a difference it makes to your mixes. I'm sure that it's going to speed your whole process up, and it's going to give your mixes much more dimension and much more depth by using these very simple setups. And if you want to know more about the vocal chain here and how I build a vocal chain that I just repeat and use time and time again, then check out the next video, which is coming up, because that's a deep dive into the vocal chain that I use on every single mix, and it works every single time. So if you want to know more about that and you want to build a vocal chain that's guaranteed to work on every mix that you do, then check out this next video here.